welcome to the latest edition of the Spink Medal podcast. Just to begin, very good to see so many of you at the OMSA convention out in America. It was great to see old and new faces out in Pittsburgh, and then to see so many of you in New York as well. Everyone also had a jolly good time at the OMRS convention in Stratford-upon-Avon, and I think we can all agree that the change of venue worked very well, and it was a great weekend. Once again, I am surrounded by medals, and so we'll kick off. This is the 24th of November sale. We've got 338 lots, and I hope you're all sitting at home with your catalogue or in front of the computer. And we'll begin with the cover lot, which is just over my shoulder, which is the superb and important Bradford City Fire Queen's Gallantry Medal, B.E.M for Gallantry, and Police Long Service Medal to Chief Inspector Terence Slocombe. I'm sure many of you will know about this group. It is one of just two at time of print, and it's a very important and poignant one. I'm going to begin by just reading the London Gazette entry for the Queen's Gallantry Medal. On the 11th of May 1985 at approximately 3:40 p.m, fire broke out in the main grandstand at the Valley Parade football ground in Bradford. Police officers and spectators assisted in the initial evacuation, but the fire spread rapidly to the roof. Within seconds, the entire structure was ablaze. Intense heat and breathing difficulties forced rescuers to retreat to the comparative safety of the safety area. Inspector Slocombe's initial involvement in the evacuation continued until the heat caused his unit to catch fire and it had to be removed. Shortly afterwards, he saw that spectators were in great difficulty still. He ran forward, taking a police officer's coat to use as a shield against the ferocity of the fire. He managed to grab an elderly man who had collapsed near to a perimeter wall. With assistance from a spectator, he was able to pull the man away from the fire. Chief Inspector Mawson and Inspector Slocombe were aware that a number of people were trapped in a toilet adjacent to the blazing stand. The officers ran towards the inferno and entered the toilet. With assistance from another officer, they took hold of 3 people. The group then ran from the toilet to the pitch and had to avoid large quantities of falling debris on the way. These 4 police officers and 2 civilians displayed outstanding courage and bravery. Despite severe fire and extremely dangerous conditions, they acted in a way which endangered their personal safety in order to save lives. I think that tells a story. The lot is accompanied by a vast amount of information, pictures. We have here the photography of the day, so you can see the start of the fire, and as pictured in the catalogue, there is actually a picture of Slocombe saving a man from the fire. It's a very important group, and only 6 Q.G.Ms awarded for the fire, 4 of them to the police, and this is lot number 22. It's conservatively estimated at 10 to 12,000, and it's a very important group, and we're sure it will do very well. The link with football, the links with Bradford, and of national importance as well. This being the worst fire disaster in football history. We'll move on now to lot number 1, which is a very nice Albert Medal, something a little bit different. It's an Albert Medal group of 4 to the Royal Flying Corps. Young Corporal Sims, who in 1916 on the Somme noticed that a large bomb store had actually caught alight. He very gallantly went inside and assisted in putting out the blaze, which obviously could have caused severe injuries and a severe loss of munitions. So he was awarded the Albert Medal. It's a second class. It's the first one that Spink have had in a couple of years, and I'm sure it will do very well. I'm sure many of you will agree it's probably the finest order, decoration or medal this country has ever produced, and it's beautiful. Again, like lot number 1, it's direct from the family, and so never been on the market before. Again, estimated at 6 to 8,000. This lot again comes with a lot of information. We've got pictures of him. He looks like a bit of a scamp, and I think it'll do very well. So we've got 2 very nice groups, and along the bottom of that tray you'll see another one. This is lot number 6, which, as you can see, well, you might not be able to see, it's DSO and 2 bars, MC and bar, grouped to Colonel Frank Naden of the Cheshires. Colonel Naden joined the Royal Marines as a young boy soldier, went to the Gold Coast, and unfortunately, it perhaps wasn't for him, as he is noted as run on his papers, and it would appear sometime later he has gone to a jeweller's and perhaps got the East and West Africa Medal, but no less, it's a very fine group. He then went to the Boer War as a volunteer with the 4th Battalion. He joined up at the start of the very start of hostilities, while still a volunteer, and the naming on his what's rather nice, the naming on his 1914 star is to Colour Sergeant F. Naden, 6th Cheshires. When we get to his War of Victory medals, he's Lieutenant Colonel. During his time, he was very quickly given a field commission. He then went on to win 5 Gallantry awards, all of them which have fighting citations, which is very nice. Again, this lot is accompanied by a rather fine portrait in a very smart frame. Also comes with all his original documents, commissioning documents, pictures of him, and it's a very nice group. He went on to command battalions with the Cheshires, the Black Watch, Royal Irish Rifles, so it's very fine. The Belgian awards also have the citations with them, and again, a very, very nice group. This one is estimated at 7,000 to 9,000, and again, I think it will do very well. So we've had some civilian gallantry, we've had some Royal Flying Corps, we've had some Army. Let's have some Navy. Lot number 10 is a 1914 DSC Group of 7 to Lieutenant Commander Dickens. This, again, is a very, very nice group. The DSC, in fact, is for the engagement between the Cap Trafalgar and the Carmania off the west coast of Trinidad in early September 1914, so an extremely early action. And the award, basically, he was involved in what is referred to in Deeds That Thrill the Empire, which I'm sure some of you will be reading and will find this article. It was fought in a Nelsonian fashion. The 2 steamers, luxury cruise liners, which had been fitted, effectively pulled up against each other and fired at each other for well over an hour and a half, which in fact turned out to be the longest single naval action of the First World War. A few of the awards have come up for the Cap Trafalgar Carmania, but this is actually the first DSC. In total there were 3 DSCs, 1 DSO and 12 DSMs which have come up for the action. We believe this one to be the first DSC to come to auction. Again, this has been sold by order of the recipient's grandson. It comes with some nice pictures, and it's a very fine group. He served for a long time, went on to serve during the Second World War. He's got his decoration, which I believe is 41, sorry, and it is they're a very good group. Again, as I say, estimated 6,000 to 8,000, and for all of you naval collectors out there, they're a very scarce group. Okay, Navy. We've had a few things through the time. Let's have some modern gallantry. And what we have here is a section commander's MC group of 6 to Corporal Ward of the Mercian Regiment. And as you can see here, I've actually got Corporal Ward's number 2 dress and his hat. He was awarded the MC for gallantry in Afghanistan during 2010. He'd served tours of Iraq. He also did non-operational tours in Belize and lots of other places. And I'm actually going to read you a letter which was received from Prince Charles, who is Colonel-in-Chief of the Mercian Regiment. Dear Corporal Ward, having heard the splendid news of your most thoroughly deserved military cross, I wanted to drop you a line to say how thrilled I was to learn of this award and send you my heartfelt, underlined, congratulations. Reading your citation, it is clear that your repeated acts of selfless leadership and gallantry were absolutely crucial in preventing loss of life to your comrades and indeed save the lives of others. To say that I am full of admiration for your courage, initiative and disregard for your own safety is a serious understatement. You are, if I may say so, an outstanding credit to the Mercian Regiment, of which I have the great privilege to be Colonel-in-Chief. You are also an immense credit to this country of ours, which is, without doubt, more fortunate than it realises in having such dedicated people as yourself serving in our armed forces. This brings you countless good wishes, and my warmest admiration. Yours most sincerely, Charles. I think that really sums up this group. It's the Modern Gallantry Awards are again doing very well. What makes this one rather nice is Corporal Ward was actually selected to present the FA Cup in 2010 and joins the ranks of sort of Sir Winston Churchill. Prince Harry's done it as well, so he's in rather esteemed company. He enjoyed a lunch with David Cameron before, and actually had the luck to present the team the trophy to the team captain Manchester City, who was I believe Carlos Tevez, and that actually is the team he supports and which his family supports. Corporal Ward's family have served the Cheshires and the Mercian Regiment for over 5 generations, and the lot is, as you see, accompanied with his dress. We've also got his combat helmet, which is photographed in the catalogue. We've got the full set of his miniatures, and all of the documentation that comes with it. The group was actually very heavily featured in the press when he was awarded the MC, and also when he presented the FA Cup. This group is, again, very important. Just over 100 MCs awarded for Afghanistan, and 12, I believe, to the Mercian Regiment. This one is estimated at 12 to 14,000. You can probably see there are 2 MCs here. The original Royal Mint one is here, and Corporal Ward has had a copy mounted up with his group. The genuine one comes with the Royal Mint case of issue, and it's a very complete group. And again, I think this will do very well. Time for some Second World War flying now, as I know it's so popular. We have here a very fine group of 7, 1943. We've got a Wellington Halifax pilots group. This one's to Flight Lieutenant Bowman, who was a very interesting chap. He joined up initially as a boy messenger for the ARP in London, 1939, as he was too young. On the stroke of his 18th birthday, he joined the RAF, and as most of you will expect, he was then shipped off to North Africa, doing raids in Benghazi and around there. Unfortunately, he had a slightly difficult landing on one occasion, and I'm going to read one of his sort of memoirs, which will give you a little bit of information. November 1941. The target for tonight being Benghazi, Libya, necessitated a 200-mile flight to a desert landing ground to refuel, followed by a 900-mile round trip to Benghazi. On our return to LG 104, our desert air traffic control, with the whole area under dense fog and no alternative airfield available, refused to answer our radio calls. With fuel running low, each individual crew were left to make their own decisions. 2 aircraft ditched in the Mediterranean, 2 bailed out, and we decided to land on a salt lake to the south of Mersa Matruh. Still in thick fog, we scraped along the escarpment north of the salt lake. I was the only casualty, losing the left sole of my foot. Mid-morning, when the sun had dispersed the fog, a lone hurricane had spotted us, transmitted our position to base, who arranged the transport to come and collect us at nightfall. After a month in hospital, I joined a hospital ship at Suez, bound for Durban. My foot at this time was showing signs of gangrene, and the ship drew into calm waters to enable a surgeon to amputate. After parking and cleaning, the wound, it was decided, was to await further developments. Thanks to the expertise of the surgeon, my foot and my future was saved, and we continued for Durban, where specialists spent 7 months restoring my soul. So, in fact, as many of you will read in the catalogue, logbook 1 is missing. This is confirmed as having been lost in that crash. Bowman then went on to complete many operational sorties, and actually was in a very interesting one. He is referred to in the logbook, and they were actually rescued by the first use of an airborne lifeboat. And there's a very nice picture here of them being rescued. And again, Bowman has been very kind, has given us some more information. We were badly shot up over the target, and 3 engines were put out of action. We ditched successfully, and we waited for help, but never expected such a surprise. I've never been so frightened in my life as when this great boat came sailing down towards us in our rubber dinghy. We were sure it was going to hit us, it dropped so close. However, it landed all right, and we soon scrambled in. I could hardly believe my eyes when it had 6 engines. We got them going in a few minutes, and they helped us forward for several hours at about 6 knots. The Hudson aircraft which dropped the boat flashed us our course, and we got within about 10 miles of England when we were met by a naval vessel. We were given air protection the whole way back. They were in fact met and congratulated by Marshal of the Air Forces, Sir Arthur Harris, who gave them a nice reception. And there's included in the lot, there's a very nice picture of Bowman with his crew having a chat. He lived a very interesting life, and again, it's a very nice group. They are estimated at £1,800 to £2,200, so well worth a bid. So I think we've covered most bases. One base which we definitely haven't covered is the Polar Medal, and what we've got here is a very, very nice and very numismatically interesting pair, General Service Medal with Canal Zone clasp, and Elizabeth II Polar Medal with the clasp Antarctic 1956. The recipient of this lot, of this group, was Captain Angus Dalgliesh, formerly of the Buffs. He actually served in the Canal Zone, receiving a very bad wound through his ankle when he was shot in action. Following his recovery, he applied and joined on the advance party for the foundation of the Halifax station in the Weddell Sea. 10 men were sent down ahead, together with his brother, who was the leader of the expedition. They lived in tents for a number of weeks, building the station, which is still actually in operation today. The station is rather famous because it first detected the hole in the ozone layer, and what makes this group very nice, there are only 89 General Service Medals with clasp Canal Zone to the Buffs, and there are also only 10 silver Polar Medals with the clasp Antarctic 1956 awarded. So, you know, altogether it's a very scarce, a very rare and a very desirable group, and considering what other Polar Medals have been making recently, we've conservatively estimated this pair at £6,000 to £8,000. They come with some very nice photographs, and actually online there is a very well documented account of what the chaps were up to. They definitely had that British spirit, as they managed to build a pub within the station after a while. They in fact opened the post office, had a post office there, and once they'd waterproofed it and weatherproofed it, it was a success. And they were met the following year by the party for the geophysical year. So a very nice group, and yes, I think they're rather interesting. That is lot 93, and the final lot we'll talk about today is lot number 21, which is our back cover lot, and this is an exceptionally rare 1958. It's for the relief of Fort As-Sarir in Aden. Again, to the Buffs, which is very interesting. We've got quite a lot of material for the Buffs in this auction. This group is sole beholder of the recipient. This is actually the last Gallantry award to the regiment before their amalgamation, and it's a very fine story. Corporal White, who is now retired as a major and is in fact the head of the regimental association, was sent out to Aden as a very young corporal, only just over 2 years serving, and unfortunately, a Yemeni uprising occurred, and the British political officer was taken hostage in this fortress above Darla on the Jebel Jahaf plateau, which is exceptionally precipitous, exceptionally high, and very difficult country. A number of relief efforts were attempted, but unfortunately they had failed. So a full-scale assault was needed, because it was estimated around 1,300 dissidents had actually got around the fort, and the officer Fitzroy Somerset was there with a small detachment of guards, but it was feared, they'd be running out of water, running out of supplies, and something serious needed to be done. It was a very difficult assault. An initial party was sent out to distract all the dissidents who were up in the hills around one route and around the Turkish road route from Darla camp. The main force was then sent following the bombardment from the RAF. It was a very steep, and the assault took a very, very long time. When they almost reached the top, there was a very severe firefight and a number of guns. It's believed that around four or five machine guns were trained on the very narrow route up to the summit, and a number of casualties were taken. Corporal White was actually leading his detachment, and one of his men was injured. He then ran up without any thought, rescued him under heavy fire, and saved him. He then went back on and led the men. And the M.M. citation featured in the Gazette gives it refers to that. For his determination and courage during the assault upon the precipitous escarpment of the Jebel Jahaf plateau, under continuous fire, he carried a wounded man to a stretcher party and then returned to rally his half-exhausted men and lead them to the head of the pass. Once they'd actually made the ascent, the siege was raised. Everybody was actually well and inside the fortress, so it was a job well done. The facts of the operations in Aden were very important in the country at that time, and the fact of this raid was actually raised in the House of Commons in early 1958. The question was raised to the House. Mr. Whig has asked the Secretary of State for War whether he will make a statement upon the operations at present being taken in the Aden Protectorate. Mr. Amery, as my right honourable friend, the Colonial Secretary, explained on the 1st of May, some 1,500 dissidents instigated, bribed and armed the Yemeni authorities, recently attacked a government fort 1199 at Fort Assarir in the Dala area of the West Aden province. It has been reported that some regular Yemeni troops and Yemeni tribesmen also took part in the attack, but the numbers are uncertain. A force consisting of 3 companies drawn from the Buffs, our man, the King's Shropshire Light Infantry and the APL, Aden Protectorate Levies, supported by aircraft of the Royal Air Force, were sent to relieve the fort. Its attack was launched on the 30th of April, and despite the strong resistance, the fort was relieved. By the next day, we regained control of the area, and a large convoy passed into it without incident. The casualty figures are not complete, but we have been notified of 23 wounded troops among our own forces. Enemy casualties are estimated to be between 50 and 75. Since then, our troops have been engaged in mopping up dissidents in the Jebel Jahaf and in patrolling the frontier. One of these patrols came under heavy fire yesterday by heavy machine gun posts, which had been established illegally on the Protectorate side of the frontier. This led to the counteraction which was reported in the press today. And referring to the casualties that were taken, the chap unfortunately who was wounded and rescued by White later died. The operations following the assault were actually quite severe. Corporal White's section had actually gone to the villages where the dissidents were hiding out with this heavy machine gun, which is mentioned, and they had managed with their gun from a very long range, which is slightly disputed at the actual range, to snipe 2 Yemeni tribesmen and take out this machine gun post, which is obviously very important for the safety of the British troops in the Aden at that time. Again, from the recipient, a very important group. As I say, it's the last Gallantry Award to the Buffs. We had the last Gallantry Award to the Leicestershire Regiment, I believe in April, and that did jolly well. This again is a very fine group. The catalogue goes into much more detail than I have just done, and it's estimated at £7,000 to £9,000. The auction takes place on Thursday the 24th of November. I look forward to receiving the bids in all the usual ways. The catalogue is obviously live, and I'm sure most of you have your printed copy. Do drop me an email and send your bids through the post, through Spink Live. Please arrange telephone bidding, or most importantly, it'd be great to see you there in person. It's going to start sharp at 10 AM, so thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to your bids. Goodbye.